Dirish, to the podcast. Thank you so much for being a guest. I would love to know, Dirish, on this fine day, are you well actually?
I am well, actually. I am well, and it feels good to be well because it's
Great.
something that I want to always maintain for my
Yeah.
own sanity and well-being.
And what does wellness mean to you? Like, how, if you could define it in a sentence or two?
Ooh, I mean, it's a stretchy question, but I'm going to give you my stretchy answer.
Yeah, no, stretch it out.
For me, wellness is like it's being healthy in your mind, body, heart, soul aligned spirit. It's being holistically hitting all the holistic spots of who you are. That for
Mm,
me is what keeps me well. It's not just one thing that's well. It's just making sure that my full self is well, so
mm-hmm.
I can operate and do what I need to do, and be the vessel that I can be, the best possible vessel that I can be, navigating this world we live in.
Mm. And how do you think your definition of wellness, which is very beautiful, by the way, I really it really resonates for me. How do you think that like differs, if you like, from how wellness is maybe promoted or portrayed, let's say, in our world?
I think it's very surfaced,
Yeah.
number one. It's very glam in the way
Mm.
it's presented because and you know what, that I get it, like people need to be served glam in order for them to be a consumer towards it, and it's kind of become a capitalism now in terms of what wellness is as opposed to what wellness actually is.
Mhm.
And sometimes the glam sells, and then people then show up to a wellness class or something and they think, actually, I thought this is what I wanted, but this is actually what I need. Or this is because time and time again I've come up with that. Oh, I thought it would be this kind of thing, but actually is actually when I left the class or the situation, it's actually what I needed. And I think that's the magic we have as facilitators, teachers, and any kind of facilitator in the field of wellness, is that we get to bring people in, call people in a way that can really help to shift and lift something within them, because ultimately they come to change the way they feel. Of course, they look at all the posters and the glam models and the leggings and everything, and that they think that's what they need. But what's really transformative is the fact when they come into the practice, they leave feeling completely different.
That's so true. Yeah. So even if their in is like a superficial draw, like what
Mm.
they leave is much deeper.
Yeah, and I think deep down they realize once they leave, like, actually this is what I truly need.
Yes.
Um, because a lot of times we're just living from the neck up, and
Mm-hmm.
when we come into our bodies, it changes the dialogue of actually, ooh, this is hitting something, it's making me feel a certain way, or this is triggering me. But actually, what that does, it ignites an energy in you to be like, okay, this is revealing something to me that needs to be seen, otherwise it can't be healed.
Mm.
And I think a lot of the times that we want to push that down because we don't give ourselves the autonomy and space to look at ourselves, because we are so bombarded by our own busy lives and schedules that we just think we put it on the back burner until it explodes, which is then becomes super dangerous.
Absolutely. And what was your way into wellness? Did you always know you wanted something deeper, or were you seduced by the glam?
I was born glam, so I didn't have to be.
Ah, I don't doubt that.
I always just knew, like, from day one, like, there's more to this surface life of 9 to 5, or there was just more. I just knew, and I come from a culture and a background that's so rich in spirituality, in scripture, in community, that it's always been in me. And then the whole hustle of trying to get a job and being a certain way to fit standards, to fit into this, patriarchal system, this matrix, to be a certain way. And I've just always been the rebel. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do art school. I'm going to follow my passion. I'm going to do what, because I have a driving force. And I think when you have a driving force in you, you're not going to back down.
Totally.
And I've had to fight down a lot of walls to get to where I am today because of that. And I never regret that, because for me wellness is a word that's kind of been a buzzword for about 10 years, but it's been more like, the way I relate to it, it's my spirituality.
Mm.
That is much more expansive to me than just looking at it as wellness. Wellness is a part of it, yeah, but spirituality for me is the big kahuna.
Yeah. So you think, so you mentioned earlier that it's, holistic wellness. So would you say you almost, when you're sort of checking in with yourself, like, how am I feeling? Would you say
Mm.
you check in at that spiritual level first?
Yeah, because for me, everything is energy first.
Yes.
Everything is energy first, then everything comes later. If you don't fix the energy, like, you may be able to fix the physical thing, but if you don't go to the cause of what's going on, then what are you doing? You're wasting your time constantly looking at one aspect only, when you're missing the whole rest of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And for me, if you're not going deep, you go home.
Yeah,
Most
yeah.
people go home, because, like, you're not going to be able to get to the root cause, and you're constantly going to be met with these challenges until there's a light switch that goes on, that
Mm,
you think, actually, I've got to change my ways.
mm,
So it's really important for me that we go to the root cause of everything, and that's how we get to dissect and unfold and realize and actualize where we're at. And that's what yoga teaches us. Yoga reveals the things that are hidden, and the more we dive into our practices, it shows us the hidden gold that we have beneath all of our stories and all of our behavior patterns and traumas and everything.
hmm.
So that's really important.
Amazing. And what are some, I mean, if you don't mind sharing this, what are some maybe like daily or regular practices you keep to stay tuned into this spiritual wellness?
Yeah, meditation, number one. Like, it's so key for me. Like, that's what I started in my journey anyway. It was meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Then came the yoga afterwards.
Mm,
Um, and then just like, I have loads of little things that I do that keep me, you know, being who I am. Is like breathing, like conscious breathing,
mm-hmm.
and making sure that my breath feels balanced and even. Like, I'm a Libra, so for me, like, balance is everything.
Absolutely.
And if I don't have balance, I can't function. So
Yeah.
meditation, it's breathing, it's my yoga practice, it's my dance practice, it's my energy work on the chakras. It's like it's my writing, and like visualization is really important for me, because I'm a visual person. I'm an artist first, that's my background.
Yeah.
And then before that, I got into fashion and styling and graphic design. So I've had a whole past life of doing that world.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of it comes to play now, and everything is everything. So nothing feels like it's wasted, even though I'm not doing that life anymore. It's still integrated somehow.
Absolutely.
And it gets to be fun, it gets to be creative, it gets to be lively. I get to put these things into practice. And also, I think discernment has been my major superpower growing up.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's what's kept my wellness good.
Yeah.
I'm not diving into no dramas with things that doesn't.
So your boundaries are good.
Yeah, it's got better, like, over the years. And the thing is, I used to have these feelings of like, no, stay away from that person. But then, no, 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 my little people pleaser will come out and be like, no, 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 give them the benefit of the doubt, and then just completely get shot. And
Mm,
then, like, you gotta fall down a few times. But it's not about how you fall down, it's how you get up. So for me, it's just about like learning the lesson. And the quicker you learn the lesson, the quicker you can move on.
mm,
And that comes with time. It's not something that is insta. you know, this kind of like, I need to get it now. You've got to go for it. If everything was easy, then how would we grow without challenge?
Absolutely.
Right? So I do have a lot of things that keep me, and sometimes they change. A lot of the practices, like they change as as you change, as we change, as the season change, so do we change. But I
Mm.
do have that ultimate grounding thing of like meditation and breathing and writing and moving. Like movement is medicine for me.
Yes, absolutely. And
Mm.
for anybody listening who might think, gosh, I find it really hard to sit still with myself,
Mhm.
could you say that, dancing, even your ecstatic dance,
Yeah.
and movement, can that be a form of meditation for the individual?
Absolutely. Because music sound is so powerful. When you're like, I remember growing up when I was a child and I was so introverted, you won't think it now, but I was so introverted. And I would just go to these like family dues or whatever, and there'd be music. I would just start dancing and just go into a trance.
Yes.
In that trance, like I was able to just be in this whole rhythm and just lose myself in the dance because I was just vibing with the music in my body, moving, shaking, releasing. So it begins to become movement meditation
Yes.
because you're not just like at a party and looking glam. You're actually in the rhythm of the music. You're connecting with the music, you're connecting with your body, and it begins to have this kind of conversation that's happening,
Mm,
dialogue between in the dance. And that is so deep and so powerful once you allow yourself to just surrender into it,
beautiful.
surrender to the sound, surrender to the movement, and it becomes, yeah, that's been a truly like pivotal in
Mm,
my connection to movement medicine.
amazing. And a little bit earlier, you mentioned your work with the chakras. Could you tell us
Ah,
a little bit more about that? Because I know that's you're really big on those magical wheels of energy. So
yeah,
tell us
like
a little more.
yeah. So for me, color's been a huge thing growing up.
Mhm.
My family is originated from Mauritius, and our flag is got four main colors on it, and
Mm.
Mauritius translates as color. So yeah, so I've always been growing up in celebration, in colors, and it's just been a really vibrant upbringing with like with all these things. And when I came to yoga and meditation yoga, and I was doing all my energy work and the Reiki healing, all of that kind of stuff, these wheels kept coming up, these chakras kept coming up, and I'm thinking they seemed mysterious, but I was so drawn to the colors, and
Mm.
I began to understand that they were that basically each chakra. So chakra means energy wheel. They are a universe in themselves. They're a world in themselves. They have their own sound frequency. They have their own color. They have their own qualities. They have their own movements. They have their own effects. They have their own functions. And what really fascinated me is that how we all have them and we all relate to them because, hands up, who's ever listening to this has ever had a broken heart, right?
Mm.
You can't explain your physical heart isn't broken, but you can't explain that you feel that your heart's broken, or I can't speak my truth, or I got butterflies in my tummy. Like all those sensations is part of your subtle body. They call it yoga or the energy body. So I became more fascinated by that because when you pull I'm always interested like what's underneath the trunk of a car and
Mm.
like, when you open that up, like there's so many different, we're so layered in that. And I became really fascinated with like, okay, well, how do these work? And are they always just in the center of our body? Like I discovered that no, I can do a headstand and I can feel super grounded and feel my root chakra in my head, or
Mm.
because energy moves. So the chakras are a moving map of energy. And sometimes when you're dancing and doing some things, it's going to be more active sometimes than other. But when you're absolutely still in your meditation, then you probably feel, you can probably sense them the more you tap into them, that they can align back into your center.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. And I love learning about the effects it has and why we come out of balance and what gets us back in balance and what allows us to feel more ease, joy, knowing, liberation, love, and everything, and how we get to dial things up. And you begin, the more receptive you become to them, you can have a deeper connection relation towards them, and how they really can support you more in just seeing them as some sort of mysterious rainbow looking wheels.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love them. I love working with chakras, especially when I teach as well. And just
Yeah.
yeah, you like you said, when you sit and meditate and really feel them and observe each one on top of the other. Do you feel like there can be like a collective disruption of everyone's chakra? So just to give an example,
Yeah.
when the pandemic hit, could we think of that like a collective root chakra disruption?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah,
A collective
probably still now.
heartbreak, honey,
Yeah,
a collective heartbreak.
yeah,
Like everyone's survival. So the root chakra, if those of you don't know, is about your sense of safety, security, survival, your connection to, the ground, your connection to the earth, the connection to each other. So that was uprooted.
mm,
That's your center of identity too. So nobody felt safe. Everybody had to be in their homes. Everyone had to just root down back and to be in their home and go inward, go
mm,
inward to their inner home and uproot the things and really look at themselves. Those who were prepared to do so or forced to do so did that work, and those of us who didn't were walking around on the streets in fear and projecting all that kind of fear onto each other because their root centers were out of whack. So absolutely, everyone had a global heartbreak because of
mm,
all the things that we were going through. So everyone's heart chakra felt like the longing to belong,
yeah,
not be able to receive each other like we used to, being in front of screens rather than being in touch with people.
mm,
So absolutely, it affects everything, and everything affects like each other because
yeah,
we're all sentient beings.
yeah,
We're no different from when you peel all the layers, we're not very different from everybody else. We're all the same. We all come from the same place and we'll end up with the same fate.
yeah. Absolutely. And how would you just mentioned, they affect how we relate to each other.
Mm,
How does one sort of, I mean, you want to be, compassionate, obviously, and empathetic to whatever someone's going through, but say someone in your family or friendship circle or like in your workplace, one of their chakras is really off and it's really throwing the energy of the room. Are there practices you can do to just put a subtle boundary up almost, kind of keep
yeah.
your without shutting people out, of course?
Yeah, I mean, it's about like for me, I'm always like, okay, I need to be safe in my body. I
Mm,
need to build that safety in my body. Like, how can I get more safe in my body? How can I maybe like distancing myself, maybe just to collect myself,
mm,
and then like coming back to my breath, coming back to my breathing, like, and then being like having people or friends or people that I feel I can relate to and then can support me, and building that courage in me to be able to be in environments where I don't need to retreat and run away, but actually can stand in my resilience and stand in, um, you know, feelings supported by those who are there for me. And I think it's really important to have that soul network of people because they say that the 5 people that you are around the most are the 5 people that influence you the most. So
yeah.
if they're not loving you, cheering you, supporting you, elevating you, or challenging you in some way, like you got to look at your circle and feel actually, is that really supporting my safety in who I am or my goals or whatever it is? Because otherwise, who do I get to lean back on?
Mm,
And building, and that helps to build your backbone as well. The
mm,
more you're able to build your backbone, that's your root chakra. you're able to you're able to have to regulate your nervous system,
yeah.
and through that you're able to deal with challenges much more efficiently. I wouldn't say that it's always going to be pleasant or whatever, but you have that solidness that in you. That's why it's so important to know who you are. That's your root chakra. Know who your people are. That's your root chakra. Know your values. Know what's important to you, why it's important to you, because then you can go into that space and be the baddest bee, and
Yeah.
and you feel untouchable because you own yourself. And
Mm,
that's really important, like coming back to owning who you are, because people can give their power away very easily when there's strong influential figures around. You know,
absolutely.
and it's important to know yourself, remember who you are. And the
Mm,
more you remember who you are, no one can step to you in a way that they'll try to dim your light.
amazing. Yeah,
And that
because
takes a lot of courage, because a lot of people, they don't have the courage because they hadn't had the support, or they got their power taken away, or it's harder for them to build themselves back up. So be kind to each other, lift each other up. We need it.
mm, absolutely. And when you're, if you're working with somebody and helping them to align, does it kind of make sense to start from the bottom up then, since that's the foundation energetically, as
Well,
in
the
the,
way, yeah, I mean, practically, yeah. But what I like to do is just check in with where people are at. Like, what is the main theme coming up for them?
mm,
The main theme will tell me what's happening. And I'm thinking, okay, well, where do you feel that in your body? Okay, heart chakra, let's go inside what's going on. Or how's it feeling? What are the emotions? And on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the strongest, one being the weakest, where are you on the spectrum of that?
mm-hmm,
Right. And then we'll work with where you're at, and we'll build you up
mm,
that. But I think I always want to like make sure their root is strong and centered. And a really simple exercise you can do, Elle,
yeah,
is everybody's probably, we're sitting down or something. If you just lift the flesh of your right buttock,
mm-hmm,
and then you keep your eyes closed, and you just let that sit bone rest onto your seat, and then release your hands, and just observe how you feel in that.
mm,
Yeah. Your seat probably feels a little bit different. You probably feel a bit more connected
mm,
to the lower part of you. And then you lean onto the right side and you lift the flesh of the buttock of your left,
mm,
and let that left sit bone. And what you're doing, you're just adjusting the way your seat is, but you're adjusting your root chakra as well. That you
amazing.
physically get to do that, and it has an effect. I mean, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I can feel, because I've got a lot of flesh on my ass. So it's really
A
so
lot
so
of pounds and
moving.
a lot of bounce and ounce.
So moving. So no, but that's powerful, feeling the bone, like,
Yeah,
you know, sort of grounding down. Absolutely. Wow. Yeah, that's so, just going in on the physical, that's so powerful. And
right.
yeah, like, putting your feet on the ground sounds really, it sounds overly simple almost, but
Mm. But
amazing.
what do we actually do? I mean, a lot of us living in the city, we live in a concrete jungle, but just taking your shoes off. This thing is called earthing. You just take your shoes off and put your bare feet on the grass, and you just breathe. You just let your feet sink into the ground.
Mm.
Simple exercises like that. And a lot of people will talk about it, but are we actually doing? Are we actually putting it into practice? Um,
I'm a bit of a fair weather grounder. I'll do it in the summer and the spring. But
But
maybe
like
I'll get
simple
out.
things like stretching your toes, like massaging. So one of my rituals is I massage my feet before I go to bed. So I
Yeah.
make sure I get really, like I feel grounded. This is part of my rituals. I want to make sure that I keep the maintenance going. You
Yes.
don't want to wait to a point where things start to really mess up and you have to work harder. You want to make this thing as simple as brushing your teeth.
Yeah. So it's a discipline, it's a discipline that becomes a healthy habit.
Yeah, you want to build these up, because like one of my teachers said, to take care of yourself like you're going to live forever.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then, like it's almost like if you don't want rotten teeth, you want to make sure that every day you've got that Colgate smile ready.
Yeah, no, it's so true. How much, you personally, how much time a day do you think you dedicate to these kind of practices, or a week?
Um, like in the day, I don't know, like probably like 10, 15 in the morning, 10, 15 in the evening, and then throughout the day I'll have my little reminders on my phone or
Oh,
something just to
that's
keep me.
smart.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
again maintenance. And I wanted to make sure that if I've had an overwhelming conversation, I'm like, okay, I need a moment. Let me just gather
Mm.
myself,
Clear
and
it out.
yeah, and just make sure that I'm okay. I don't want to just keep going through the day with that impact on me, which is actually weighing me down, rather than me, being able to lift and be in a space where I can serve whatever I'm doing. So
Absolutely.
it's important to like just have those moments with yourself. I think small moments you can have with yourself can build the mindfulness in you.
Yeah. And I love the idea of being able to put it on your phone just because then, we most of us have our phones with us most of the
Right.
time these days. So
Right.
you may as well get a good reminder as well as
Yeah,
this
exactly.
intense notification. That's
And
so
then,
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
then you can
And
have that as part of it becomes a habit, it becomes a habit. Good habit.
absolutely.
You're going to say
How
something.
how long have you kind of, would you say you've kept that up more or less, like over the years?
Over the last decade, I think.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah, over the last decade. I was really adamant because I was really adamant, like I really want to build on myself. And I saw all these amazing, teachers who were just so radiant and shiny and like strong. And I'm thinking, those are goals that I want to like be able
Mm,
to, you know, be with. Like, so, they represent, they modeled who they are, right? They
mm.
represented that. And I just thought, I'm not going back to this old life anymore. Like being, just not giving 100% to what I can actually be. And
Yeah,
sometimes you can't, sometimes you can't be what you can't see.
yeah,
If you can see the representation of that, it makes it possible for you, because if it's possible for them, it's possible for me. And if it's possible for me, it becomes probable. And if it's probable, it becomes inevitable.
mm.
So that really has impact.
And that goes back, I guess, to who you're surrounding yourself with as well,
Right.
expose
Exactly,
people
exactly.
to.
And it's about making decisions that are gonna serve your highest potential. Like it's sometimes painful thinking, oh, I don't want to I'm not going to talk to that person. But again, it's not about throwing them out completely, but it's about choosing wisely. Who do you want to spend your time with? Who's going to actually lift you and elevate you and support you? I don't do obligations anymore. I don't care. I don't care how many years I've known you. Because if you're going to be coming to me with that same energy that's bringing me down, why are you here for? Why are you in my life for? Like, I can keep you at a distance. I
Mm,
don't need to shut down. I don't need to be blocking people and all of that stuff. I
yeah,
can be an adult, I
of
can be an
course.
adult and not do this blocking culture thing and just, but sometimes you got to block the trolls. But like when it
Yeah,
comes to people like who are around, it's like, no, be an adult. Like take responsibility, take radical responsibility of like, looking after yourself, making sure that your boundaries are clear and nobody steps over the limit. And if they do, you speak up about it. You don't just let them walk all over you. That's me speaking to my past self.
yeah.
That's what I used to do.
And that's showing people love as well, because if you don't set your boundaries, if you're not clear with people, it's kind of, it's not honest anyway, is it? You're sort of going into that people pleasing, you're kind of, and you might resent the person, they might resent you.
True. And also, like, we show people how we want to be treated.
Hmm.
That's that's the main thing, because whatever you're giving is what they're going to be thinking that's okay to do. That's okay. Or I can just walk over them because they don't mind. Or that's why you're going to be the more intentional, the more mindful you are, the
Yeah,
more you can create better boundaries, better relationships, and you can live more with self-respect.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, and just kind of like slightly, that's really beautiful, by the way, and it really relates nicely, doesn't it, to that idea of your center, your chakras, getting into your energy and kind of knowing
Yeah.
where you're at energetically and how you're going to interact with other people, how your energy interacts with other people's. Um, is there anything in the wider wellness world at the moment? Chance to throw a little shade if you wish. Woo. Um, is there anything in the kind of wider wellness world, or maybe kind of in your area of energy work a little bit and yoga? Do you think that is, it's either a bit of a scam, or it's selling something that is actually not conducive to wellness? I'm just
Pedestal culture.
interesting.
Yeah. Some people call it guru culture. I call it pedestal culture because it's not just gurus, it's anybody in the quote unquote limelight who who is getting all the deals, who's like headlining at this festival and headlining and doing all these bits, and suddenly like everyone's got stars in their eyes and they think, okay, how do I become like them? It's just like, and it's just so gross. It's just like, come on, light your own light. Like, and there's been so much dismantle in this kind of guru culture
Yes.
of like, so I know, as you know, there's so many like big leaders who are now crumbling because of the misogyny, the fakery, the foolery, all of the stuff that they've been doing is now being crashed down. And it's important for now everybody to realize that they are their own teacher, own guru. They can they can make their own decisions without having to put give away the authority to higher figures.
Mm.
um, and the word guru means moving from dark to light. Gu is dark and ru is light. And some of these leaders are walking with like a distorted torch, because on one hand it's shining, but then the other hand is distorted, and you're leading a whole, you know, huge amount of people into the distortion when it looks pretty like lights. That's
Mm.
dangerous. That causes a lot of pain and suffering. And you're showing people something, and you're meeting people at their vulnerableness, and that what's really is just is just not okay, because if you're going to be showing up as a leader who's supposed to be responsible and knows who's supposed to be they are, and then you flip the game where it turns on them, it just completely traumatizes them. So I want to see more of that kind of dissipate and go away, and try not to model these behaviors. I mean, it's really hard. I was having a really like long discussion with the friends about it, and they were like, well, it's because like a lot of the people are still operating from their lower human self, their
Mm.
sexual desires. And when you get that amount of attention and that amount of like celebrity, let's call it, it's like it begins to feed your ego.
Absolutely.
And it begins to really feed your ego. And then you get lost in that ego
Yeah.
where like it all goes wrong and distorted. So people, I feel like they need to learn to stay in their own lane
Yeah.
and try not to. I mean, it's really, I say try not to, but know who you are. Like I said in the beginning of this thing, remember who you are. Like remember where your roots come from. Remember who your people are, and not follow the blind and be this sheeple kind of
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
planet.
Yeah.
It's so important. So I just want to see the back of this and just see more, like even evening out the playing field,
Yeah.
because we're all equal, all one. And
Do you think it's possible to be like a leader in this world without transgressing over into that territory of guru slash being on a pedestal?
I think it's always possible if you make the choice and the decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you make the conscious choice and decision and you stick by it, and
Yeah.
you stay humble, and you don't fall into this like glam light of everything.
Mm.
It's definitely possible, because there's so many other leaders out there who are doing amazing work who don't get the kind of light and recognition, and they've been doing it for decades,
Mm.
decades, and just keep doing the work, and they know their purpose is higher than their ego, and
Yes.
they keep their ego checked. I feel like we all have an ego, but it's important to use it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
The down
Which chakra does the ego relate to? On
It's the solar plexus, so it's the third chakra. It's also called the power center. So,
mm.
and it's about the self. It's the self-love, it's the self-esteem, self-worth, all to do with the self. But like it's the small S versus the big S. The big
Mm.
S is when you're the big I am,
Mm.
like I am beyond everyone I am, or just I am, like I am the soul
Mm.
inwardly. I am the person that serves whatever I'm doing. I am the person that is here to make a change, or whatever change means to you in a small way or a big way. And using that in a way that's gonna, light up the world. It's a lot of darkness out here.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's keeping that ego in check.
Keeping that ego in check. Yeah. Well, important, especially not to lose your head when you're like, when you get certain platforms or you get certain recognitions or you get endorsements and um yeah, just to stay humble. And that
Absolutely.
really comes with a really devoted practice,
Yeah.
whatever you're offering it up to.
Yes. Yes. I
You
love that.
know?
So offering, like offering it to something outside of you, really.
Yeah, like in the yogic tradition, it's the bhakti is
Mm,
devotion. It's the path of devotion.
mm, beautiful. And Dirish, I always like to ask my guests if they have a practice or just a thing that they love to do. And it doesn't have to really be particularly wellness related or obviously wellness, that just makes you feel really, really good, brings you lots of joy that you would like to share with the listeners.
Eating passion fruit.
Ah,
That's my thing.
I love I love that. Why? Because it's just the texture or that's everything.
Just everything. It just reminds me of being in Mauritius. It's just sweetness. It's just like, it just tantalizes my tongue. It makes my sacral chakra happy.
Love that. I love that. Eat more passion fruit.
I mean, I like that. And yeah, that's just something I think, like, you know, fruits are life force, it's prana, right? It just gives you,
Mm.
and for me, I've always been drawn to tangy kind of like fruits.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and I love swimming,
Mm.
being in the water and just swimming and just I go into our own meditation during that as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for
Having a
sharing.
good old time. But I do want to share this prayer that I do every night, and I
Please,
really want to spread it to the world because it's so impactful.
please, please.
It's like a prayer affirmation. So, every day we're constantly with different people, different engagements, different conversations, and we pick up a lot of energy, and that can be draining a lot. And we can go to bed with that, right?
Hmm.
But this is what I've been telling myself recently, and it's just been really impactful. So, first of all, you just get yourself into a really like calm space, maybe do a couple of deep breaths. You bring your left hand to the center of your chest and you say, Body, cleanse all people's energies out of my system now and return it back to them. Then you say, Emotions, cleanse all of people's energies out of my system and return it back to them. Mind, cleanse all people's thoughts and energies out of my system and return it back to them. Then finally, spirit, cleanse my whole system and expand it and decompress my body from today.
Mm.
When you do that at nighttime before you go to bed, it's just like a whole weight's lifted.
Yeah, that is so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that,
Well,
Dirish.
of course, it's
I'm gonna
needed. We all need it. We all need it. It's good for this. It's very good for the mind, the mental health, emotional health. It's
absolutely,
it's energetic hygiene. We need it. Like, you can do all the physical hygiene, but we need the energy hygiene.
absolutely. What a great term, energetic hygiene. I love it. Thank you. Yeah, seriously, thanks for sharing that. I'm going to be using that
You
tonight.
better. You better. You're gonna be
Yeah.
shining different when I see you.
Yeah, be all sparkly clean.
Right.
All right, Dirish. Well, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest, and thanks for sharing your amazing wisdom so generously as well. I certainly learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners will also have learned a lot. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, Elle. It's been a treat to do this with you.